Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is September the 14th, 2021, and we are continuing our study on false prophets, but we're going to be taking a look at the Witch of Endor in this study. So, let's see. Okay, I started the story at the very beginning with Hannah and her promise of Samuel to hey, you guys, okay, Hannah was barren. She had no child. But her husband had two wives. And I was laughing there because I remembered something. I actually found um, a I actually found an example in the Bible where of polygamy where it wasn't a an exercise in caution. It wasn't good nor bad. It was just done and nothing more was said about it. It was when David was what was the man's name? I can't recall the guy's name. David had requested some had been David and his men had guarded the lands from enemies. They had spread out in the country guarding the land from the enemy, and they had not asked for provisions. They had not asked for any help from the farmers whatsoever. But then when he found himself out and about and he needed help, he sent for help from one of the farmers. And the farmer, he was an old man and he was mean and greedy. um, I think it said he was greedy, but I can't recall. But he was an old mean man. And so when David and his soldiers asked for help, the man said back, "I'm not giving you nothing." How dare you ask me for food and provisions? Well, the servants, knowing how the man was, they ran back and told the wife. And the wife hurried up and packed up a bunch of food and took it out to David and the soldiers. Well, David, once he got the message, he was so mad, he vowed he was going to kill the man. And when the wife came and brought the food, he was so grateful. He blessed her. He said, "Thank you so much for," he realized he was wrong, that he had lost his temper. And he was so grateful for her for coming and bringing them the food and making him realize he was wrong for wanting to kill the man for that. And he thanked her and he took the food and the soldiers ate and everything was fine. Well, the man died a year later, and the Bible kind of puts it in there like he died because of the wrong that he had did to David and his people. And when he died, David sent for her and married her. And nothing bad happened. It was not an exercise in caution. It was not a warning. I didn't know that was in the Bible. Okay, sorry. It just came to mind. I didn't know that there were any good examples of polygamy in the Bible. None. But there it was. Not one good thing was said about it. Not one bad thing was said about it. David helped her so that she wouldn't have to be a poor widow. And at the same time, he wasn't really checking for her like that. He was really just trying to help her. He was trying to help her so she wouldn't have to spend the rest of her life in poverty as a Christian woman. Anyway, let's go on. Let's get to the study now. So anyway, Hannah was barren and she wanted a son, so she went to the altar to pray for a child. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by the post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. So she bore a child, and wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come, about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition, which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. So she took him to the temple and she left him. But she would visit him and she would make him a coat. She would visit him at the temple for the the 3 feasts that they had to go there each year. And she made him a coat and brought it to him from year to year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. So he had a mantle that he wore. It's called a mantle elsewhere in the Bible. I didn't highlight this. But in Samuel's day-to-day doings, he turned to go away from someone, and he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle, and he tore his coat. I should have put this at the end of the study. We should have read the Witch of Endor first. I don't know why I decided to approach it like this, but anyway. Now, after he was dead, here comes the story of the Witch of Endor. And where do we want to start? Do I want to read? Let's read the intro so we'll know what's going on. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore I will make thee keeper of mine head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. So Saul had gotten rid of all of them. We're going to have to read down a little bit more. Yeah, and let's just read through. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem, and Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then the Urim and the Thummim were like a couple of stones. They would cast those stones in order to get like a yes or no, or an answer to a question. Then said Saul unto his servant, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I might go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. Now let's stop for a minute here, because I made up a scenario for you guys. I made up a story for you. Okay, here's the story. There was this guy, and he wanted some water, but his well was empty. So he went to one of the heathen temples. It wasn't the Lord's temple. So he goes to a heathen temple, and he knocks on the door, and he asks the priest, he says, Hey, my well's empty and I need water. Would you pray for me some water? So he prayed for him some water. So the guy goes up and he checks the well, and there's no water. And I'm going to change it. It was the town's water. It was the town's well, not his well. It's the town's well. That was the original story. I changed it. So the town's well was empty. So he said, Can you pray for us some water? So he prayed for some water, and he went up and there was no water. So he went up again and there was no water. And he prayed some more, and he went up again, and there was no water. After about 5 or 6 times, the priest called him back, and he said, Hey, go up and check and see if there's water, and I will pay you some gold. So the man goes up, and he checks for the water, and there's no water. I can mess up a story. Um, he said, oh, he said, check for me if there's water. And when there's water, I will give you some gold. So he checked and he checked and he checked over again. So finally the man got to thinking, hey, there's never going to be any water in here. So the priest prayed again and he said, go up and check for water. So he goes up and he checks for water and there's no water in there. And he comes back and he says, yeah, there's water. So he gives him the gold. The man takes the gold, goes to the nearest club and buys some wine and has a drink. So, but after a while he gets thirsty again. So he goes to another heathen temple and he knocks on the door and he says, hey, there's no water in the well. Please pray for some water. So the guy tells him, okay, go up there and check for the water for me and I'll give you some gold. So he checks for the water. There's no water. He comes back. He says, yeah, there's water. And the man gives him the gold. And he goes and buys himself a drink. And then he does it with another heathen temple. And maybe he goes to another heathen temple. Finally, he goes to the house of God. And he speaks to the priest there, and he's thinking that the priest is going to offer him some gold. But the priest prays and he says, go now and get your water, right? So the dude is upset. He wants some gold so he can go buy him some wine. But he figures, okay, well, I'll just go up here and check the water. And then when there's no water, I'll go back and tell him there's no water, and maybe he'll give me some gold then to go back and check it for him. What do you think is going to happen when that guy goes up there and there's water in that well? It's going to blow his mind. He's going to be like, wow, oh my goodness, there's water here. I can't believe it. It's going to blow his mind because he's not used to because he's been up that hill so many times looking for that water and it's never been there. So when it's finally there, it blows his mind and he screams in delight, right? Keep that in mind as we read through the rest of the story. Let's read this part again. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. So what just happened here? This woman was a fake witch. Right? She's been doing this gig for a long time and she's never seen anything come out of the ground before. But Saul was a special client. Man, Saul would have been anointed and these demons wanted him and they were willing. They were willing to use her to get him. Right? So, but here she is. She's going through the phases. She's going through her little chants and this, that, and the other. And when she sees something come out of the ground, she screams out of shock, right? She cries and she's looking around trying to figure out what's going on. This is not part of the plan. And then she recognizes Saul. And what goes through her mind? The fact that Saul had been killing all of the witches and the wizards in the land. So she screams, she looks around, she instantly recognizes him. She says, no, you're Saul. You came here to trap me. You came here to deceive me so that you could kill me. And you promised you weren't going to do that. Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. That's what she says. She knew something was wrong when she saw that spirit come out of the land. And the king said unto her, be not afraid. For what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. She is shocked. And she doesn't know what to do with herself, right? And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. Listen. Sister White was talking about in some of her writings. She was talking about people that didn't believe in demons and ghosts and spirits and stuff like that. In the last days, these demons, these ghosts, they're going to be impersonating people. They're going to be impersonating the dead. And she made it clear. She said the people that are going to fall the fastest are those that staunchly resist the idea of demons and ghosts. And when they see one with their own eyes, they're gone just like that. They can't deny it. And they fall just like that. Because they don't leave any room for, it's either a yes or a no. You know what I'm saying? They don't leave any flexibility in the middle. Well, maybe a demon, or maybe there's something, or maybe there's that. No. So when they see one with their own eyes, they fall just like that. So, first of all, they came up. Now, we don't have any examples of that I know of in the Bible. The angels come down. Even Satan fell down from heaven. Okay? Anyway, but these came up from the ground. But where they messed up is he was covered with his mantle. So, if you recall, in the previous verse here, Saul's mantle was torn. His mantle was rent. And clothing in the Bible represents the character of the man. So Saul, as a prophet, would never have been walking around in a torn clothing, much less a torn mantle in death. No. Hold on. Anyway, clothing in the Bible is representative of the character. Here, I put in a few scriptures here. Exodus 28:2. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. And this is about the high priest again. And he that is the high priest among his brethren, upon whose head the anointing oil was poured, and that is consecrated to put on the garments, shall not uncover his head, nor rend his clothes. He couldn't tear his clothes, because he was a representative for Christ, who had a perfect character. And when the king came to see, this is the parable of the king. Well, I gotta read it all for you to understand, for you to see that the clothing is representative of the character. So this is a parable of the wedding feast, which is a picture of last day. It's a parable that describes last day events. And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready, come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their way, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated him spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then saith he to his servant, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came to see the guests, he saw there was a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and feet, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. He didn't have the character of we do this every day. I mean, you can look at the clothes of a pauper and look at the clothes of a king, and you make guesses about them. So this is not a new concept. It's something that we do every day. But in the Bible, character represents clothes represents the character of a man. And Moses said unto Aaron, I don't know what this is, and unto Eleazar and unto Ithamar his sons, Uncover not your head, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, and lest wrath come upon all the people. But let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord has kindled. I thought I had put Daniel in here. Daniel 3 has a good example where, hold on, Daniel 3. Let me see if I highlighted it. Here it is. Okay, so after the three, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego went into the fiery furnace, it says, and the princes, governors, and captains, and well, this is after they came out. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their hands singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. They came out with perfect characters. This is represented. This is an illustration of the 144,000 who are going to be perfected, and it shows that their coats were not changed, their hands were unbinded, they didn't have the smell of fire on them, and nothing was singed. They came out perfect. All right, let's go back. Where is it? Okay, hold on. Okay. I don't know where it is. Here it is. Okay. I'm sorry. So this is, you can tell this is not Saul, because when the demons impersonated Saul and manifested themselves to the Witch of Endor, in impersonating him, they left his mantle on. He had been known for wearing that mantle. It was the mantle his mother would make him one every year. He grew attached to it and he became known for it. And so when the demons impersonated him, they were like, Samuel he always wears the coat his mother made for him. But he would not have worn that coat. He would not have. I don't know if you know your scripture, you know that he could not, as a man of God, have been wearing that coat if it was torn. He couldn't have been wearing it. Anyway, that is my study about the Witch of Endor. And I guess I'll leave it at that. I will see you in the next video.